Welcome and welcome back to the on-air Authentic Lourdes podcast. I say it all backwards in all the ways, but welcome you guys. I'm thrilled to share with you this more info. This is our part two of the conversation with Veronica talking about Ayurveda and understanding this as a medical experience. What was the word you used? Medical healthcare, right? Like a healthcare system, as well as a lifestyle. And yeah, so we're gonna get into. Welcome back, woman.
Thanks, Mama. I'm really happy to be here. Always so grateful to chat with you. You said it right. I mean, this is a whole healthcare system. And when we speak about a healthcare system here in the Western world, we have a very specific understanding of what it can give us. And a lot of people have also experienced, like myself, some pieces that have been missing. And it makes sense because it is based on what's understood as a reductionist model. And Ayurveda is a holistic system. So inherently, they are different. A reductionist model is where we try to reduce signs, symptoms, ideas into a few streamlined processes, right? Much easier in practice. And the holistic...
And often only touching the symptoms, like you said.
Exactly. And it reduces us to a box, right? It reduces us to very specific, you could say frank diseases, right? When I might not fall into any of those realms, because guess what? I'm only one being, right? Yes, I have all these elements that we'll talk about, but it is organized in a very unique way, which is me. In Ayurveda and holistic systems, which there are other holistic systems, but Ayurveda itself, it's inherently whole, which means I cannot reduce you or your experience into one streamlined pathway or process. So it's complex. And to be honest, it turns a lot of people off once they start to learn how deep it can actually go, because like myself, I was definitely hoping like, oh, ashwagandha and then I'm chill. Oh, triphala and I'm good. That idea we get to notice, like, oh, if I have that idea or that
Now you just spoke to two different herbs, right?
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, like a medicine, like, oh, I'll just go to the medicine, but
exactly. So there's this very common energy that we might come to a holistic system with that is actually, brought from how we were raised with this Western system. Oh, ashwagandha and then I'm good, right? Ashwagandha is an herb. A lot of people will take it and try to experience more relaxation, helps with sleep, right? It's an adaptogen, so it's going to adapt to the body's needs, and not consider the repercussions that it is a medicine and that it can react with other things, and it's not to be taken out of ignorance. Really, these are sacred plants. So in Ayurveda, we would recognize that we do have to understand all the inputs, the outputs, the history, where you want to go, where you're showing up like right now, and then that will then dictate what comes next. So it's a big system. We'll get into it. I'm curious what's coming for you when you hear that.
yeah, like I'm excited to hear this because since I was a child, for me, there's been this real big awareness around not just serving these symptoms. I was homeschooled, and so we were early on turned on to information. I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably have the info here. Dead doctors don't lie, and all sorts of other info from other people who were looking outside the box, outside the Western box of medicine, which is, I just want to put it here again, this reminder that this is how we grow, this is how we evolve, this is how we change when we challenge the status quo. And of course, we appreciate the ancient knowledge And we still get to be with that and learn from it as well. Like allow it to be this experience that we learn from, and not just trusting the medical system or trusting Ayurveda, right? Like you get to learn to trust yourself in this practice. And so, yeah, I'm hearing you share this and I'm like, yeah, the reminder of the way in which we take herbs as if they're just like, no big deal. It doesn't matter. We've got this figured out. And it's the way we take ibuprofen. And that's a different, it gets to be approached differently.
Huge, huge. Thank you for that. It's such a common misunderstanding, or maybe a common, how can I say, it's an innocent, experience that we come and try to replace one thing with the next. It's a nice way to titrate, like, right? I'm trying something new, but what is my energy towards that thing? So you mentioned, I love that you said, like, Ayurveda doesn't have, Ayurveda is not everything. It's not all the answers. I wouldn't say that by any means. However, it works, and it has been working for thousands of years, and it's still working, right? It is an ancient system, but it has not stopped in terms of practice. So I like to be careful with that, because I feel like it gives a little bit of this connotation that it's like it's dead, but it's gone underground because out of protection from British colonialism, but it has survived. And
That's
because,
really powerful to remember.
right, and
That history shifts things. So yeah.
it's been less than 100 years since India has gotten its independence. And with that, there's still a lot of healing and mending to do, even in that practice, right? In this practice of Ayurveda, because there's a lot of survival that still goes on. So I say this also, to come forward to this work. If you have heard about Ayurveda, if you have heard about holism and wanting to live a holistic lifestyle, to do your due diligence, right? The responsibility is now yours, right? If you're curious about holism, that means like actually doing your research. Is it a practitioner that you're going to work with? Why do I want to work with this practitioner? Is it a coach? Is it a doctor? If you're working with something, I want to be very, very clear, a chronic illness or a very frank disease or something, to make it as tangible as possible. If you're working with something that is changing day to day, signs, symptoms are like, I can't find a rhyme, a reason, a pattern, we're going to need an Ayurvedic doctor if you are looking to work in the Ayurvedic system. So that's huge, right? Because that's telling us that Vata's really dug its heels deep, and we'll explain the doshas in a moment. And that if there's no rhyme or reason, then me working with the seasons might not be enough, because I might have to go through these different ebbs and flows that only a doctor who's been trained for at minimum 5.5 years, not even, you don't want someone who's been trained for 5.5 years, because that's the baseline. That's just getting your Bachelor of Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery.
This is super helpful.
Fantastic. So if you're right, because I want to be very honest, I came with a chronic illness. I had chronic eczema, head to toe, very painful rashes, 5 years of amenorrhea, so no period. I had PCOS, IBS, and disordered eating. And so with all of that, and then bring disordered eating into an Ayurvedic system, that a lot of people can find very triggering. And it can be very triggering. So if you are working with something that's chronic, that's changing day to day, you want to find a doctor that's at minimum BAMS, Bachelor of Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery, and who has been practicing with a foreigner. We're foreigners to this medicine because I'm not an Indian in this day and age, and my family hasn't come from India. Southeast Asia, yes, but I'm not an Indian. I'm not living in India. So if I find a BAMS certified Ayurvedic doctor in India, they might not have the globalized setting in their practice. So these are super important things to consider. If you are, if So that's at minimum BAMS, someone who recognizes how to work with a foreigner, right, from this system. And, you know, of course, look at their testimonials, be very wary if they, if they, I would say, like, say that you can do a panchakarma at home, or they ask you to go to a panchakarma's facility without like a lot of conversation. Panchakarma, yes, panchakarma, pancha is 5, karma is action. So it's the 5 actions in Ayurveda. So these actions are the cleansing systems that expel through the different orifices of the body, the 5 orifices of the body. So that's a whole other conversation, but be very wary of someone saying like, oh, you know, we can do this right away, when these are really powerful systems. It's really surgery without cutting someone open. So just ask your good questions, right? Ask your questions. You're going to want someone who also is going to consider if you have lab tests that are going to utilize those too, because in Ayurveda, it's written in classical literature that Ayurveda is practiced when we use the most advanced technology. This was understood 5,000 years ago. Like, whatever's the best thing to use it if you can. So if you don't fall into the chronic illness area at this time, then you might be looking to work with a coach, work with a swastha-acharya, which is myself, an Ayurvedic health coach. And this can help more with like habitual changes, right? Breaking through these deeply set patterns that are perpetuating some kind of disease, some kind of illness, some kind of disharmony. If you're working on your own, amazing. And this is where we'll start right now. So I'll explain a little bit about the elements, and I'll explain about the doshas and how it might be used in your day-to-day. Is there anything else you want to ask based on what I just shared?
This is excellent. I really appreciate that you broke this down, that there are the doctors who have had the years and years and years and years and years of practice, and then the fact that they're using the more modern technology when it's right, the most epic tool, the tool that's helpful and efficient right now. Like, okay, cool, they tune into that, which makes perfect sense to me, no questions asked. And then would you restate the name of in how you are a health coach? The name again is in Sanskrit, I'm imagining.
Right. So it's called swastha-acharya. Technically, in India, there's no such thing as a swastha-acharya. Okay. So in India, in traditional Ayurvedic medicine, there's the patient, right? There's the Vaidya, the doctor, and then there's a paricharaka, which is almost like a nurse. And the nurse can prescribe some formulas, but they cannot do panchakarma. Panchakarma is only for the Vaidya. And then we have the āYURVEDA, we have the medicines, of course. So these are the groups of support. In the fact that we're working with Ayurveda in a globalized setting, we require a bridge.
Beautiful.
The bridge is the swastha-acharya. The swastha-acharya is the one that can help to tune into the fact that this is a whole new way of being. Because when we're coming from the West, what has happened makes a lot of sense, is there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of distrust in the West, which I don't blame us. The way this.
So you're saying an individual coming into this way of life is coming in with a lot of distrust.
Like from the Western side, likely, yes.
Right.
And
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, which is, I think, is fair and valid because of the way our nations have been founded, right? It's founded on brutalization, right? And fear, right? Real fear and a lot of trauma. Not to say that there's not a lot of trauma. There is terrible trauma all over the world. And India has been rooted in a practice of faith, right? And deep faith, meditation, Hinduism. And I'm not saying that religion is required in Ayurveda. It's not, but belief and faith in something and that things will get better is. What I have found as a swastha-acharya, as a health coach, as an integrative nutritionist, like I notice there's always, and in myself as well, but why? But how? Tell me the ins and outs. It's like, like I need
You're
to know.
bringing the curiosity to the table, and I think that is bringing your powers to the table. Now you've brought your abilities, what I can do to the table. And so, yes, please, and thank you. And yeah, I think that's excellent. And yeah, I hear you on this. Yeah, the coming in with the lots of questions and slight distrust. And yeah, heard, understood.
Fair, fine. Like I get it. I think that's okay. And it's a bit of a defense. Why? Because of all the things that I've already stated, like, right? So there's a bit of a defense. So the Swatha Acharya is here to soften a bit, to start to, okay, well, to notice the habitual behaviors and the behavioral changes that we can open up to. So there's a new language, right, that the Paricharakas and the Vaidyas just aren't really trained in, which is fine because it's not needed.
It's the culture, what we've cultivated. And it makes perfect sense that you, because you, from your own experience, your own health journey, you come in and be that bridge. Like this is, yeah, this is beautiful and super helpful.
Cool, cool. Um, can I give a quick pause? Yeah, I'm gonna give a quick pause so I can.
So we took a moment of a pause for break. And I want to share with you guys, here it is. I've got the Black and White Truth Oracle deck. She is now available. Woo! Oh my God. I am so thrilled. This is 4 years in the making. 4 years in the making with this beautiful satin finish and this linen texture. I created this deck during a time when I was being mirrored by a beautiful twin flame soul. And you guys, this has helped me tune into energies and like sharpen and hone in on my intuition, my five senses tapped in and tuned into, and my instincts, like being with the knowledge that's like already inside of us. It's fascinating. And so it's been really fun to develop these and to use them over time. And they come in this beautiful bag. It even has its logo, the authentic Lourdes logo. It's so fun. So all natural fibers. It's made of linen and cotton. So you guys have fun with that. And I am thrilled to bring back Veronica.
Wow, let's just like really celebrate you for birthing this gift into the world. Thank you. I can't wait. I mean, I've been waiting for this actually for a minute. And I have to say, y'all, this is actually a big piece of healing of what Lourdes just dropped in, this dedication. In Ayurveda, there's an understanding that yes, the mind, the body, the spirit, they all create this physiology, like, or this triangle. That's who we are: the body, the mind, the soul. And what can happen is in this day and age, we can get so trapped in the mind because of social media, because of technology. We've advanced hundreds of years in like very little time, like it just ridiculous amounts of time too quickly. And the body hasn't caught up. So dedication and actually putting my head in the books, my hand on the cards, and cultivating something from start to finish is one of the most powerful and essential ways to heal, specifically the mind. And we get waste out of the mind through dedication, through actually finishing something into fruition. Then the body starts to trust. Why don't we have a lot of trust in this world, right? With one another. We first have to cultivate it within ourselves. So what we're just seeing here is the byproduct of cultivating discipline, like loving purpose, and then also this now physical manifestation of something brought into the world that we see through all of this time, dedication, this effort that you've brought in. So thank you for that, because I think a lot of people, maybe they tune into podcasts, YouTubes, and see creators and see artists, and it's like, I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah, you
But the
can.
difference is like, but you're not doing it. So once you do it, then you are doing it, right? Like we have to take the time to slow down and find that discipline, something beyond us to then make something happen. So it's really powerful, hopefully very motivating. And I'm just deeply celebrating it, sister. That's powerful.
Thank you for that and for this really beautiful journey that you're describing. It really helps to have that visionary, like laid out, oh, here's where we are and here's where we're headed. And
Right.
so, wow, that was really epic to describe that. You said devotion is like basically an intestinal pathway, if you will, to healing.
Yo, that, and you're gonna need it if you want to use holism as your main form of healthcare.
Now, this is epic because you're reminding me of the I Ching, because the I Ching is again from the eastern part of the world, and supports. It's expressed in gene keys. To be honest with you, I could see its connection to all the archetypes and to what I call ancient psychology, astrology. Like all of this is ancient psychology. And so I hear you talk about this, and I'm just like, how beautiful. And this is where you spoke of the word being in the discipline, which I really want to remind us, because we kind of sometimes we have a like a guard, I would say, towards that word. Sometimes we have an emotional reaction to that word. That's what it is. We do. We do have different times. At different times we do. And there is, once I remembered that this word means to be the disciple, to be the student, it shifted everything for me, because when I'm the student, that there's the flip side of that coin is to be the teacher. And so like every time I learn something, I get to teach about it so that I keep learning about it. And it's this really beautiful cycle. And so to me, yeah, like in our health, the more we're going to be learning about Ayurveda, and we're going to be in the discipline of the learning and of the teaching of it, like and so you're in it, and that's exciting. That's why you're such a powerful tool to be connected to. You're this person who, like, the bridge that gets to help support, because you've already done so much of this for you. So, oh, super helpful, woman. Thank you for all of this. I'm so excited.
Ah, me too.
I'm a
Yes.
little student, like lapping it up like a little kitten, all the milk.
Love, love. Yeah, powerful. So let's dive into it then. What is it like to want to use this in my day to day? Do I want to explore? Is this for me? Is this for me? If that's your question, maybe I've tried other things and something is like tickling me about Ayurveda. Where I would start is first recognizing, okay, what's my experience of qualities in my body, with the world around me. So when I say my experience of qualities, we can understand, right? How do we measure? How do we measure things? In quantity, quality, right? We know this, basic, right? Quantity is really popular and used mostly in reductionism, right? In the Western medical system. Numbers, charts, right? Thresholds, this and that. Ayurveda uses that as well. However, when we work with quantity, it's in that person's own body. So, for example, like one palm is like to measure volume for my body, right? Or the width of a thumb. Anjali and Angali. The width of a thumb would be my thumb to measure how much of something we need, or how much what the circumference should be based on your volume and your width, right? Like your Angali and your Anjali.
That's powerful.
It's huge. So there's no way we can base things on reduction, how much water to have.
Literally bespoke at its finest. Like, would you like bespoke medicine? Dang, I'm just sitting here like, wow, that's a woo! Wow,
Right.
okay. Okay,
So
I'm still all ears.
we work with that, yes, in terms of measurement, but then when it comes to qualities, this is huge. Ayurveda measures things in qualities. So if I'm starting out and I want to experience qualities in my life, okay, first I understand what the word means, qualities. My qualities are going to be like textures, temperatures. It's going to be my experience, my relationship with, because what's hot to me might be very different to what's hot to you, right?
Exactly.
What's hot to me in the winter is going to be different to me of what's hot in the summer, right? So understanding qualities and how those qualities can shift and change based on the seasons, based on the environment, based on the inputs and outputs of my previous week, right? So all of that's going to change the context.
This is beautiful.
So get curious about my relationship to qualities, my relationship to this warm tea, my relationship to the things I'm eating, and my experience of qualities. Oh, is this soft? Is this rough? So everything's curiosity. Try to see the world through new eyes, through curious baby eyes. Okay. So that's like just number one. And if, getting tactical with it, do I have a journal? If I want to use a journal, that's really nice at the end of the day. Just again, get the mind on a new pathway of like, what did I experience? What did I eat today? What did I eat today, and how did it feel? No judgment. There's nothing wrong with anything that you've done, but how did I feel after that? How do I feel tonight? Ooh, interesting. Curiosity. You're the scientist of your own life. You must be. Yeah. So those are just some very basic beginnings. And then we can get into the layer, okay, let's go a little deeper. What are dictating these qualities? Nature herself. We're all like made of the same things of nature. So we can talk about the elements, right? And the elements will all have their own frequency. They'll have their own qualities. They'll have their own relationship to other things. So what are the elements? We have air and space, right? Air, wind, space is always expanding, right? Wherever there's space, there will be wind to move into it quickly, like instantaneously. This air and space can be experienced in the body. If I have more air and space, if I have more space in the body, less tissue, right? Then what might my experience of life be? I have, for example, a lot of clients that have high amounts of air and space, vata, you can say, but we'll get into the doshas. And their experience of life, oftentimes,
And the bell rings.
right? Ding ding, vata's here. And it's funny because vata is very closely connected to sound.
Exactly. I was
right?
like, that's so awesome.
Because what happens, right? Big space, the bigger the space, the sound goes, and there's nothing, no carpets, nothing in, vibration, sound, it's intense. So in a lot of these bodies that experience a lot of space and not that much tissue or like dense matter, their experience of life is probably very intense and fast, right? Things move fast. The mind wants to keep moving because there's a lot of space, and the mind wants to fill that space with thoughts, right? And vibration frequency can be intense. So I have, some people with misophonia, right? Meaning like sound can actually create a lot of anger or pain because there's not enough cushion and density to absorb the shock of a frequency and sound. There could be a lot of coldness, right? And there's a lot of connection, creativity. There's a lot of like, oh, I understand how the whole world is connected. That huge concept of the mind, right, can be understood to a vata person or someone with a lot of air and space potentially. And then we move into what happens. There's a lot of space, air, wind. What's going to happen with a lot of wind? Then we can get fire. Once we have a lot of wind moving really fast, and if space keeps growing, expanding, wind will continue to move really quickly until there's heat. Now we've generated heat until fire ignites, right? And then the fire gets blown on by more air. Then we have the next element, fire. So now this fire, what happens with fire? We have, okay, my relationship qualities to fire. There's warmth there. There's the ability to see, You can't see anything without light, right? Where in a dark room, a match gets lit, you see immediately, right away, that's truth, that's real. I can't see anything else except for that, right? Heat, fire, motivation, passion, drive, creation, okay, or transformation, transmuting. From a fire, you can have one thing and then now it gets cooked into something else, right? So more things can happen outside of air and space because with heat, because now we can transmute one thing to the next. Something's not just continuously expanding, which like the mind can do and kind of play games, right? Now we have something to focus on. Right now we have a lot of air, fire. Okay, my relationship to heat, my relationship to fire, being able to transmute something. With enough fire and flames in space, then we have moisture. Moisture will start to happen, right? Like if we're thinking about weather, right? Think about weather. We're going to have the humidity come into the space and drip, 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 and we have some water. Water. How is water in my relationship to water, right? A little softer, it's moving a little slower, right? Okay, maybe there's a little bit of flow. It's going to fill up the space and there's more flexibility. It's nourishing. Gosh, it's been hot. It's been hot. It's been fast moving. Now I can settle down. There's a heaviness to it. Everything has been either expanding or moving upward. And now there's some dissipation with the water and moisture. Okay, so there's flow, there's nourishment, there's coolness, there's softness, there's flexibility, molding. And then from this now fire that's created moisture, and then we have ash next, right? Because now the water mixing in with the fire in space will create ash. Then we have earth. So the earth element, now we have like something really tangible, something really tangible. And that's where we get, okay, some more heaviness, right? We have some more, it's cool. Earth is cool in nature, right? It can create more slowness. I can build something, but it's going to take more of a process than water, say, or how fast something can transmute with fire or grow in space. And so what's my relationship to earth? What's my relationship to slowing down? What's my relationship to a build? How long is it going to take for this ash to fall and then build something that I can walk on, right? This is all of the elements, the cycle of the 5 elements. We are the closest to physical matter, to this earth element, and yet we've glorified this idea of air and space being, everything, because we are from it, right? This is the birth, the creation of life, Big Bang, whatever you want to call it, right? From air, so much space, boom. There's a sound, there's space, there's vibration, and then all these elements happen. So if I can understand now I am of these elements, my relationship to each one, now I can tap into, okay, well, what elements are existing in my food? Or how are they at play in my food? How are they at play in my workspace? Whatever that may be.
In your life, like you said, in life. Like, it's literally, I know that we're going to teach this in elementary. I mean, I know as children come in for me or not, but as I feel like there's lots of children around me, that this is a really beautiful, basic elementary place to start that's more powerful than the numbers and all these other things. Like, we start with the elements, like demystifying the mysteries. This is how we do it. It's like tuning into what are we? We are nature and we're made of all these components. This is what God, life, the universe, the Bang, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, what is it that created all this funness that we get to play with now? Yeah, these are the building blocks, and we could go from there.
Right, exactly. The building blocks, the foundation that we can give reverence to. Okay, woo, just at its basic level, like I am you. And so now how are they at play on a little bigger level, right? Food is going to be more of that earth but it still will have all the elements in it. Don't forget.
Right. I was like, don't take that away.
But you're gonna like recognize now, if you've heard of Ayurveda, you've probably heard of now the doshas, right? Yes. It's funny because when I work with clients, we might start talking about doshas at the beginning to kind of like satisfy an itch, but we always will come back to qualities and relationship. Beautiful. Because the doshas exist. You have all of the doshas because you have all the elements. The doshas essentially are the qualities of these elements grouped together. So air and space is vata. And then the qualities of vata, of air and space, are vata. And then we have water and fire, and that's going to be pitta. And of course, there's an increasing more fire than water in pitta, but we need that water so pitta doesn't, go off the rails. But when the water comes down, then that's when appetite increases. So, and digestive churn increases, like as fire does. So these are the two elements, fire and water, pitta. And then we have water and earth, kapha. So these elements exist in these doshas to explain their qualities. Okay. And they all have a home. All of these doshas have a home, like a mainstay where they predominantly reside. And they still work together because it's holism. You can't separate them, which means you have all the doshas. I have all the doshas. Different seasons, they're going to vary, but I will have my own unique prakriti is what it's called. My unique, my unique prakriti of basically how much percentage I have of each one.
Awesome.
Okay. And my baseline might look like 80% pitta, right? Like, which would be really high. And then, the rest split. But if that's the case, I'm constantly needing to regulate that pitta, that heat, that fire. But someone else will still have pitta, but they just might have like a higher percentage of kapha or whatever. Yeah. So instead of getting like hunkered down on the doshas, get curious about your experience of the qualities and what you need next.
Beautiful. Okay. Damn.
Is that helpful?
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. Because I feel like the doshas.
I'm over here like this gets to be taught in elementary. Like this is really excellent. This is so basic to understanding the human health.
Yeah.
You're providing health codes. You know what I mean? So
totally. With curiosity. And then hopefully, I think what has happened with the doshas is that it kind of became another way to latch on and label and glorify one versus the other, when in reality, like, we have them all, and they must be in harmony within our own.
I just want to share this. I think as a collective, we've been taught there's always the good and the bad. We try to label. And if we could continue to just lay that down and start connecting to literally the qualities of everything in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it really serves us. Oh, I feel really bloated. That's not a bad thing. This is informative. Fuck yeah. Next. Oh, I feel really excited. What does that mean? It's not a good thing. It means, oh, how do I bring myself to recalibrate? How do I enjoy and use this fire to put fuel into what I get to do next? And like hell yeah. You can give a whole presentation to us on this and literally the qualities of life. How do we get to quantify things and qualify things? And like, woman, that's pretty freaking epic. I'm just saying, like.
Right. This is great. So now again, trying to bring it back to tangible. So I've journeyed through my days. I'm curious about my relationship to qualities. I'm using my journal at the end of the day. I ate pizza and I felt hot and had acid reflux after. But I also felt heavy, right? Like, okay, just interesting, curious. Okay, I had pizza the next day, but I also had it with a warm salad, right? Like, and I didn't feel acid reflux and I didn't need to have as much pizza. Curious.
What's an example of a warm salad?
Like it could be massaged kale that's steamed at the end, or just steamed
Steamed
kale,
vegetables.
steamed veggies.
Okay.
Something like I like to saute. I do use predominantly saute, but since actually my last panchakarma, I've been steaming more. So most people can use way more steaming of
In our
foods
lives.
in our lives, because we're chronically dry. We're
Okay,
chronically
that's
dry and
powerful.
vata aggravated. If we look
Okay.
at our soil, we are nature, and what's happening externally, then you've heard like the macrocosm and the microcosm, right? Like if our soil and our earth is heating up and drying out, so are we. But that doesn't mean drink copious amounts of water. That means recognize, am I absorbing? Do I have the body that can absorb? Because if you have dry ass soil and you dump a whole bucket of water, it's going to spread out everywhere. It's not going through. It's slow. It's slow. It's steaming. Imagine if you put a steamer. So heat and water
Beautiful.
and wind, right? Like if you did that on a soil, then it's going to start opening up. It's gonna start creating moisture slowly, and then it's gonna start absorbing. So very different.
And then all the microbes could be fed properly as well, and everything continues to keep processing. That's, ooh, some rich stuff right there.
Right. So you're journeying, you're getting curious about qualities, and now I want to apply more of this absorption. I want to be able to actually absorb my nutrients. I want to be able to digest, right? Because the doshas, okay, the last thing I'll say about the doshas actually is it kind of can seem like this esoteric idea of elements. Hopefully it doesn't. If you need more background around like elements and qualities, just you can look up like the different you can actually go to Zach Bush, and Zach Bush will explain how our cells move and how certain cells have certain roles. And those certain roles, some of them will be to break things down, some of them are to absorb, right? They're all going to have different roles, and how they go about those roles will have a quality. They need to be hotter, they need to be cool, they need to move in a certain way, they need to move slower. Like those are the elements too. And you're going to find those same types of cells in what's in nature, in the fire, in the trees, like in whatever has more water, more air, more space. Like it's all there. Frequency. So if I'm trying to ensure that my body can absorb the nutrients of life, and my cells, my doshas are happy, then I get to recognize, okay, what are the doshas doing? They're trying to either turn on or turn off. So you can see doshas as this as the mechanisms of the body that say go or no go, right? And when they're in their right home doing their right role and they're happy, they're going to say turn on at the right times of the day, turn off at the right times of the day, right? Go, passion, drive, absorb, whatever, stop, no go, rest, like just yes, no, in a cellular level,
Yeah,
in a
that's
functional level. That's what the doshas are doing.
wow.
Okay. And when they're not functioning, they're like fighting each other, they're causing constriction, they can't absorb, they're, again, fighting each other, autoimmune, whatever that looks like. They don't know, they've lost this connection to the whole of what their role is. And so
But
then
that
now,
sounds systemic to us humans today. And
interesting.
I think it's been the fun of the game we've been playing.
Exactly. It's all connected. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring the doshas back in their place so that they can recognize their role and enjoy that role. But when they're out of their home, when the elements are out of their role, like I have too much air and space in my joints, right? Like I can have the right amount, but now I'm feeling all these I'm cracking very vata prone. But I have these cracks everywhere, right? So now there's maybe too much air and space in the wrong parts of my body when we want most of Vata to be below the umbilicus from the waist down and where our reproductive system can create movement and flow and move down.
You are helping me realize when I have too much vata. Duh, when I'm super bloated and super uncomfortable.
It's moving, traveling different places.
Or it's
Right.
stuck. Or it's
Or it's
stuck.
stuck.
And yeah. Oof.
Exactly. Right. When Vata's stuck, what's going to happen, what all of these elements, when they're in their wrong home and they start to build and overflow, they're going to be calling on for more resources to keep growing, because all life is trying to grow. Whether you're a tiny cell or you're a human being or an elephant, everything's trying to grow and live more and receive more life. So with the doshas, with the cells, with the go pathway, the no-go pathway, when they're on that trajectory, they want more. They want more. So our job as the conscious beings, the runner of this vessel, is to say, time to direct to a different, on a different path, be like reparent ourselves, loving discipline. I know you want to keep eating the chips. I know you want to keep playing. I know you want to keep drinking, but I'm the adult in the room and I love you for that. Like, I love that you want to do that. And we're going to sit down, we're going to eat our vegetables. Right? Because the doshas they're gonna want to do all the things that are going to make them grow in the wrong places. So if I can recognize, okay, go, no go pathway, what can I do to keep these doshas on track, to keep them cycling with the proper go and no go pathway? We can look at the circadian rhythms of the day, right? So now I'm looking at nature herself, who's doing it quite right. I am you. Okay, you're doing it right out there, and I can learn from you. So that means circadian rhythm. Can I entrain with you out there so that it's easier for me in here? Entraining circadian rhythm is going to be, I rise with the sun, I fall with the sun, right? As simple as that.
Yeah.
And then that also means hunger cues. Sorry, please.
No. It's just so, again, we are nature. And when we forget that we're out of time, because we are time, we are past, present, and future. We are space, we are height, depth, and width. And the more we remember these things, because I say this to people often, like, you are time. Don't worry, you've got all the time in the world. You are space, allow yourself to be in the space because you are that. And so you're saying this, and it's like that reminder of when I wake up and when I go to bed, when I do this, when I do that, when I feel in this rhythm of time that I am in more alignment. And that reminder that nature is this beautiful baseline that was already designed and already functioning beautifully.
Yeah, so true. This is why, I always am honoring my teachers and my teachers' teachers and the original teacher, nature herself. And before nature, the elements, right? These are our real teachers. So if we can tune back there, if I feel lost, if I feel scattered, what can I learn out here? It can kind of sound like woo-woo esoteric, which I hate. I also don't like that term.
So I want to I hear you on all that. And I was like, you just said it and you made such a profound statement. We could just breeze over. And I know it gets breezed over often. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it, what category you want to put it in, right? Like you're saying, you could call it this, you could call it that.
Right.
But guess what? If you want discipline, if you want to practice being the student,
Right.
it's not a joke. Meditate next to water. Ask water to teach you. I don't know more profound teachers. I literally don't. And look, you and I are speaking from experience. Like, it's not a joke. Like that. If you just left this podcast with that one thing that you did and tuned into, how can you learn from the fire? Be with the candle, be with the fireplace, be, outside with that fire. I promise you, if you listen, you will learn. And there's this voice in our head that criticizes us often, doesn't it? And if you could let that voice continue to teach you as well, because you're going to hear stuff and you're going to think you're crazy and it's okay. But I'm just saying, that teacher, those teachers, you could live your whole life and ignore that. And I'm sorry, it will be a bummer because you can add so much of the natural wisdom that's already inside of you trying to bubble up is coming from those elements.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is you. Yes, thank you for that. Exactly. It's so good. It's so true. If one has ever doubts themselves, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. Like it's our history. Again, it's the history of perpetuated history to say like us witches, the people who pray into the fire, who speak to the elements, that they're crazy. And hey, like that hurt us. That hurt us. And we're coming home because it's been working. It's worked for thousands of years before what's happened in the past few hundred. So
how the hell do we have chemistry in the first place, or science, or this? It doesn't exist. We don't exist without this elemental, primal. Let's start with the elements.
right. Gorgeous. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking outside to get back on track, circadian entrainment, the hardest thing that people say, but then the most essential. I just got off a client call this morning and she's rounding out 6 months of work.
Beautiful.
And, she was saying, I would actually say that going to bed, like the sleep was harder than quitting smoking. Right? She was chain smoker.
You're saying going to bed at night, that changing her time was even
hard.
more challenging than stopping smoking.
Yes.
That's powerful.
And she did both. Just gonna say, she's done it. She done did it. Like, sorry.
She done this? No shit. Bless you, queen. That's so excited for her. That's incredible.
Yeah. Epic, like epic.
But I love that for her, that acknowledgement of it was so hard to get my ass to bed.
Mm-hmm. That reality.
I've literally been in a practice of literally like stopping with all the things. I mean, I say that. I mean, yeah, we have a bedtime story. I put on a show or something to like get me in bed by like 7. Mm-hmm. I know nobody has to do that. It's just I'm seeing how my body feels with it, and it's incredible because then I'm waking up really early in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love. To then get that entrainment though, and to wake up without an alarm, wake up right before the sunrise, because your body on a cellular level is rested and is attuned, there's nothing else like it. And then from there, you build on throughout the day to entrain. Right? If we're entraining circadian rhythm, that means my digestive system is also entrained. And that's going to mean for each body, it's going to be different. Most people do really well with 2 meals a day. Some people 1 meal a day, some people 3. When in a state of like a healing state, meaning a body that's feeling sick, 4 meals that are small, might do well, but then we bring that down to 3 and maybe 2, maybe 1, depends.
Now, I really love that you're saying this because I'm going to tell you, I've read so many books because I was so out of whack in my teenage and early 20s. I was in a really strange culture of a church that was really crazy and a lot of control. And so where I thought I could exert my control was in my eating. And I was so yo-yoing. I had binge eating disorder. There were so many things I didn't understand. And so I was trying to read. And again, had I just sat with the elements, I would have learned so much more. But what happened was I learned much later in my life to start tuning into my intuition and into what my body was teaching me and wanting me to do instead of being afraid of it and thinking, oh, it's just going to take me down this path of gluttony and I'm going to be this fat bitch and I'm going to be disgusting, right? And all these things. And it was like, oh my God, I started listening to my body, and that wisdom was powerful because I've noticed everyone has very different digestive paths. And I'm one of these people that I've got to eat during the day. It's nighttime and my body like, we don't eat. That darkness is not a time to eat. It's an active time. And so but I've been learning these things about myself. My human design is teaching me this. My gene keys it's wild, like the I Ching, literally. I'm learning these things from different places, but that is a key thing, because you can't just read a book and this book tells you how to do the thing. Like, yes, even Ayurveda is going to give you all sorts of info and that's super epic, but then are you tuning back in again to those qualities?
Exactly. The qualities and what you said, your relationship to, meaning like, you said to me at night, it's just no go. If that's not the case for you, because that wasn't the case, for the people listening.
Which I should back up too. Then there are seasons, like you said, and it might be a certain phase of my hormonal moment, and I get to eat something else, and it might be at night, and that's okay. I get to trust that peanut butter that I normally would not have eaten. And I'm like, oh, there's a reason for this. And I trust it. Anyway.
Love. Exactly.
I'm not legalistic about it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not freaking legalistic about it. I'm not trying to be like, I have to be in this freaking box because this is where I am and I can't do anything else outside of that because I'm going to fuck up my system.
Right. It sounds like the spaciousness to inquire again, like this spaciousness to be like, oh, what's here when I choose this, if I choose this. So if that's the case, right, if it's the case for you that like at nighttime there's a part of you that feels like, oh, I shouldn't be eating at night, ask why. Like, why shouldn't I? Is it because someone told me, there's an idea, I read it somewhere, I saw it on the podcast, I heard it on this podcast, I shouldn't be eating at night? Or is it because maybe the body doesn't like it? Does the body like it? Does the, like, actually, not like this.
Right. Not a head knowledge.
Not a head knowledge.
You were going to give us an example from yourself of like, yes. I eat during the day, and you were saying.
Exactly. So this is the example with this idea. Coming home at night, right, for years as a chronic binge eater, while I was living in New York, I would come home and basically black out and I feel like autopilot, like eat. And a part of me was like, yes, I'm eating this thing. It's success. I'm like eating it all. It's going to be gone tomorrow. I can't stop, but I know it's not good for me. I know I shouldn't, but like, there wasn't too much happening in the mind other than just like, I can't stop. And then there was a point of, okay, why is this not good for me? Yes, I know on like a metabolic level, it's not good for me, and I'm building fat, and the more I build fat, then the more numb to the world I get, and the less active mind I have, and the less motivation I have, and it's a spiral, right? So I get that on a biological level, but like, why is this not good? Like, why is this a no? Because I feel like shit after, because I actually feel heavy. My belly is like pulsating. I have a squeezing sensation in my heart. Like, I actually don't like that feeling.
Okay, this is powerful. I want to make two distinctions here. You're saying, so for example, we're talking about fat in the body, right? And we hear this all the time. There's so much going on. And then there's so much around beauty that comes up around this too. And I want to say, even when I was fatter than I am now, it's like, it's a joke, right? We're laughing. But when I've weighed more and I've had a lot more fat on my body, so what about beauty standards? I was learning to love myself in that form. Having said that, there was this part of me that understood I didn't want to hold on to all this fat and store this because it doesn't feel good to my body, what you're just describing right now. And I want to make that distinction because I find that in our culture, we're trying to, like, while I think these women are gorgeous and beautiful, all of us are, we get to find that for ourselves. And we get to tune into our health. Is this a balanced place to be? Is this serving me? Because now this is a different conversation. And I think that's so powerful to create that distinction and discernment and begin to find why it is you would want to like bring your body's fat back to a different ratio. So yeah, I just think, I just want to state that because I've noticed got a lot of, and we've two skinny bitches here talking.
Hey, see, this is the thing. It's wild. If you look back at like you said, it's kind of funny, like big for me. If you look back at old photos of me, like one might say, "Oh, you're not big," but I knew there was something not right. Why? Because again, a Western measurement of quantity, fine, fine. You're not getting your period? Okay, well, we should just pump you with more progesterone. But like your levels of this and that, you're fine. But that doesn't feel right to me. And it didn't work anyways when they tried.
Okay.
So like I didn't look that big, but there's something not right and it didn't feel right to me. I was itching to get out of my body. Like there was something wrong with it.
Yeah.
And I know this is coming back to the elements again, because I just have a predominant amount of vata more so than my natural kapha. I have more vata than kapha. So my body is actually supposed to be at its healthiest state, a thinner, leaner, but I need to have that muscle, that dense, nice muscle that's coated, has some tendons, ligaments, and fat which is inherently more kapha. It needs to be coating my lean body. But I do naturally have to have this more lean figure, or else for me, I will get eczema. I will get PCOS, even if I don't look big.
Tells you there's an imbalance in your body. It's telling you you're out of alignment.
Right. For your unique physiology. Again, I have friends, I have people who have bigger bodies, have more kapha than me, healthy, beautiful, like a cycle with the, not saying you have to cycle with the moon, but they have like their periods are perfectly like attuned, no problems, and they're juicy and like no eczema, and great, right? It's got to be for your body, your function, the amount of elements that you have in each area. Are they healthy and well? Do they have what they need? So there's this state in Ayurveda. So this might be helpful for people who are again coming back to the story of I couldn't stop eating at night. I couldn't figure it out until I dropped into like I don't like this feeling. What if I didn't feel this? What if I just didn't feel that? Like what would it be like to not go to bed so heavy? Could I make a new way? So I say tune into how it actually feels, if you like it or not, right? Whatever habit, whatever thing that you're moving through. And two, recognize that when the elements have reached a state of accumulation. So the first stage is called sanchaya, which is just like accumulation. It's the first stage of what's called Satkit Vipaga. Satkit Vipaga is the expelling, pulling apart. I'm sorry, it's Satkriya Kala, which is the state of disease, like producing a disease. Everything has stages, everything has qualities, right? So if we can explain each stage of Satkriya Kala, which is the stages of creating disease over time, if I can understand the first stage of that creating disease, sanchaya, accumulation, what are the qualities of accumulation for me in my unique body? Okay, the qualities of accumulation, this first stage is, okay, I feel really fast. I'm not able to slow down. I'm not able to take a deep breath. I've lost attunement to my needs. I'm now bringing my awareness is outside of myself, and I feel like I'm losing parts of me. Okay, so that's my experience of accumulation. I'm like, kind of like the room. Things are accumulating over time. Now the days pass, my room's starting to get weird, and like, but I feel like I can't pick up that thing because I have to do that. So that's my quality, or my sign and symptom.
Yeah.
of thing. I'm in sanchaya, I'm in accumulation. If I keep going down this path, it's going to be the path of disease. Can I stop and break it there? If I can't, because of the world we live in, that's perpetuating more disease. Not, that's a whole other conversation, not to judge, but
But
if,
that's so powerful though, that perpetuating dis-ease. And if
right.
we don't judge that critically, we just bring the compassionate judge to that and be like, oh, that's what's happening, dis-ease.
Yeah. So it's going to, like anything, want to grow, right? It's going to want more of that, keep it down that path. So if I go past this first state of sanchaya, right? I've gone past, now I go into a state of what's called prakopa, great accumulation, like a great increase. So what are the qualities of great increase? Like too much. I'm getting a call. Great increase, too much. So now the doshas are like really like getting big and strong. So that could look like I need to go back. Like there's this craving of like needing the opposite. Like I can't do anything unless this room is clean. I need to go for a run or I'm going to snap, right? Like again, like there's this craving, a craving for the opposite. If I stop again and I don't listen to those cravings for the thing that's going to bring down back the doshas down, then I get into a place where the doshas are spilling out. They're in different homes. They're now accumulating in different places and they're kind of taking over. Then we get into that place that I was at night. It's like, boom, I'm not there. Everything else is like all parts of me are running the show and I feel like a zombie. And so that's when we get into this state of disease. And it's like there's part of me that's like itching to get out. And that's where the eczema accumulated, right? So once we get out of this great increase and the doshas are everywhere, then we start to get into like these disease pathways that have deeply set their heels in. It's not impossible to get out by any means, but we have to recognize that there's something greater than us now. The doshas are really strong. Give yourself compassion. We're probably going to need some support, whether it's from another person. We need accountability. I need like intervention to sit down and like pivot, because it's just there's been more accumulation and now spreading. Okay, so give yourself grace. We just need more reinforcements because we're going down a disease pathway, right? This is how the stages go. So if I'm in that place of I think I'm in a disease pathway where I just like black out and I can't see any other way, then what we do is we have to get attuned again back into qualities, become the scientist, come back to curiosity and compassion. We just, oh, wow, I noticed I'm in this place. So now what can I do? Circadian rhythm, start with the sleep and then start with your hunger. Curious about my hunger. Am I actually hungry? What does hunger actually feel like for me?
Yeah.
What is
Ooh.
that experience? What time am I experiencing it? And then when do I experience the signs of digestion?
And here's another one though. When do I feel like I have low blood sugar? Because that's a whole nother story and could be recalibrated as well. Doesn't have to be the thing that notifies your hunger, actually. I've seen this too.
Right. So what can really help if it gets kind of confusing, blood sugar and hunger, right? Because those qualities can be confusing. Tune into the qualities of proper digestion. What is this? What are the signs of proper digestion? In Ayurveda, basically Ayurveda is a thousands upon thousands of memorizations of qualities and signs and symptoms. So if I'm experiencing the signs and symptoms of proper digestion, that looks like clear burps.
Beautiful.
When I drink hot water, I don't taste my last meal. I also feel a sense of lightness. I also feel a sense of enthusiasm. I feel downward movement of the bowels or urine. I feel slight bit of hunger, I feel a slight bit of thirst. You know, if that's kind of dicey, then look for the other ones, right? So I'm feeling clear burps, enthusiasm, lightness, downward expelling of some kind of mala, like waste product. That's telling me my last meal was digested and I'm probably ready for another meal soon. If I'm not experiencing those things, then my meal is still being worked on. And it's just going to take some time for that fire to rev up again from wherever we're at. So this can get really deep, because then you assess your assess your strength of digestion, you assess your quality of sleep. There's so many different things, but for the basics, start with curiosity of food, relationship to their qualities, your sleep, and your either your hunger cues or your signs of proper digestion, right? Those are key.
I want to remind us, I want to be sensitive to your time. We've been here now for almost an hour and a half. And so, yeah, I'm good for it. But just letting you know, I'm like, I want to be sensitive. Because this is deeply, deeply, deeply informative. I mean, you are literally nurturing the soils of our bodies to tune in and provide what it is that we get to check out and tune into for ourselves. And then, yeah, take it from there. Because it's once all those symptoms come up, we could prevent that. We could be with our bodies before that happens. And so,
yeah. Be with the body before that happens. Just get curious, y'all, and it'll keep happening throughout the seasons, throughout the year. You'll gain more and more information. So the last thing I'll say is, with this work, if it gets daunting, this is why it can be supportive to have someone there that's not just, but that can be a space holder, that can reflect, this is what I'm hearing, that can reflect, this is what I'm seeing, what's your relationship to that? And that's quite powerful. And also someone who might be able to support if you're going to do a cleanse in a healthy way. Because when a cleanse happens, oh shit, everything's going to come up. The doshas of the mind, the doshas in the body, they're all like, now, what do? I'm constipated. Is that on purpose? Is it supposed to be? Like, maybe. It depends on the cleanse, depends on the season. So there's a lot of depths to this. If it's seems curious to you, like excited for you, and welcome to 10 years of self-study. I hope that sounds exciting. Like, I hope that's actually like, ooh, I get to learn about myself every day or a season. If so, like, I run in your circle.
beautiful. Yeah. And where could we find you, woman? Like, I'll have all those details down here, but how do we find you? How do we connect to you so that people can remember, like, you're here for support. You could direct them to someone else as well if need be. Like, you have so much knowledge around this. I don't want that to be lost on us, right? That, like, it's this invitation for this massive study of yourself, and then you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, thank you for that. You can connect with me on Instagram, Veronica Paige _G. And from there, I have a couple of links. So I have some free information there around, like, what is it like to travel and try to be healthy? What is it like to transition into different seasons? I have a freebie around transforming your relationship to food, getting curious about that relationship to the qualities. And this coming year, we're going to launch the Ayurveda Embodied program, which I'm really excited about. It's my one-on-one program condensed into a group program. So I'm excited. So these are for the people who are like, oh, I want to know more about Ayurvedic principles, and I want to self-study, and I want to cleanse. So all of it is going to be in there. And I also want to integrate properly. So that's going to be an Ayurveda Embodied. I have also the cleanse on its own. So if someone wanted to just do the cleanse portion, but not learn more about the principles, you can join that program. I'm also going to do a 3-day deep dive, a free deep dive before we launch. That's going to be in January.
Awesome.
To self-study, 3 days of deep self-study, and it'll be really powerful to learn about ourselves in community.
I love that. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Thank you for sharing all of this. And the thing I was remembering as you were saying this is this reminder to me, right? Like we are going to be studying ourselves all of our life. That's the fun. It's the fun of life. And so this is just another avenue to get in there and like develop more relationships to all these different things of life, to life itself. And yeah, that's why I'm really excited about all these things that you're putting together and what you already have available. And in part one, there is also so much info, you guys, more of Veronica's journey so that you can understand where she's come from and why this means so much to her and how it's really supported her. And that thrills me and so gets me all excited about every food I've ever eaten that's been prepared with Ayurveda in mind. Oh my God, I'm just like, God help me. Yeah, I get excited. And yeah, I love my occasional other things as well, right? Like foods from different countries. I enjoy that. And I recognize which are more serving me and which are not. And yeah, lately we get to tune into what is creating more vata for me right now. Because I've had lots of moments these last couple months, you're reminding me, where I've been more in the gassy. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's my reminder. We're off. So let's tune in.
Fair. That's okay. Hey, 'tis the season, end of fall into winter, so the vata is gonna rile up. And then the last thing I'll say is I also do consultations. So 20 minutes free consultation to see if a coach is supportive or if an Ayurvedic doctor is supportive, and I can refer you to some Ayurvedic doctors that are of good quality. I would never say that I know my scope, so I would never force a partnership by any means. I've been in that position, so I'll always point you in the direction that I feel like might be supportive, and yeah, you get to take with it whatever feels right.
Not to mention, oh my God, before we wrap this up, that you actually have spent time in India
Mm-hmm.
and you've been supportive and been the bridge and done this work under practitioners. So yeah, that's really another added component to who you are and who you be and what you're sharing with us. So yeah, Veronica, oh my God, well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you later and seeing you guys later on the Authentic Lourdes On Air podcast.